this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Central Illinois. And today our question comes to us from Red Dragon. And Red Dragon asks if I think there is something special about people who are weird and different and who might be social outcasts or who do not follow social norms, and if perhaps the reason for their weirdness is that they are on a different spiritual plane. And before I answer this, let me say that I am certainly aware there are some people who will not like what I have to say about it, but I'm going to say it anyway. And my answer to this is no. I don't think it's because they're on a different spiritual plane. I think it has to do with how they see themselves. And the reason for this, in part, is that if you look at society, you will see that many of its most celebrated members are people who are outside those same social norms, people who are just as unusual in their tastes and behaviors, but are celebrated for this, partly because of how they see themselves. And I think that whether you see this as a good thing or a bad thing has a lot to do with how other people see it too. Terms like weird and strange and odd are not descriptors I have ever used to describe myself. I think of myself as being a gentleman who happens to be pagan. I certainly don't think of myself as being in any way negative because of this. And I also don't really see myself as being on the fringe or in an alternative movement or in any way odd or unusual, except that I am part of a smaller religion. And I will tell you, I don't think that people who are Jewish, who are also part of a smaller religion, at least in the United States, I don't think they think of themselves as being odd or strange or social outcasts for the most part. I don't think people who are Hindu or Zoroastrian who are in the same position, I don't think they would use those negative terms to describe themselves and their community either. But a lot of pagans do, and I really think we need to reconsider this. I think it has to do with our self-image. And I think that self-image is very, very important to how other people perceive you. I often see on Facebook that little meme that says, if you're odd or different, press like. And you'll never see me press like on that, because I do not see myself that way, and I don't think you should see yourself that way either. And if you do see yourself that way, I think you should reconsider it and ask yourself, is this really how you see your beliefs and your practices? Or do you simply see them as being part of the subculture that you belong to? And, society is not a single monolith, even though sometimes it tries to pretend that it is. It's actually made up of many different subcultures, and there's nothing wrong with belonging to one. And people who belong to other smaller religions don't see it in those same negative terms, and we ought not to either. We often ask ourselves, why doesn't society accept us? And I think one of the reasons is that a lot of us have trouble accepting ourselves. So I recommend shadow work to deal with that perception. I recommend soul retrieval to deal with that perception. And, one of my favorite stories is the story of the first European Jewish Congress. And Herschel, who organized the Congress, insisted that the delegates must wear formal dress. And this was a huge financial burden to many of the delegates who were mostly quite poor, but he would not waive this for anything. But when they showed up in their formal dress and they saw themselves, their self-image changed, and they realized that they weren't a bunch of poor, disenfranchised people. They were a powerful movement, and it was simply a matter of a shift in perception. And I think that as pagans, we need to make that same shift. So, that's my answer to that question. I hope you find it interesting, and until next time, may you blessed be.